Hi guys, I'm actually here to ask for some relationship advice. You see, my wife, Annabelle, is a little different than most women. There's really nothing wrong with her specifically. She just has this quirk. Despite the fact that she's a grown woman, she still has an imaginary friend named Mousy. I've talked to her parents about it in the past, and they claim she's always had Mousy around. It, it isn't anything strange, though, honestly. It's not like they're talking all the time and having little tea parties. It just seems more like Mousy is just there. From what I can tell, she rarely acknowledges her. Sometimes she'll make jokes about what Mousy is doing, but I notice that she does get offended when I make jokes about her too. She'll go days without talking to me. I don't know why I put up with it, but I love her. Recently, though, something happened. I started having these dreams about this beautiful woman. These dreams weren't like normal ones, though. They were very realistic and vivid. At first, she'd just show up in the background, but one night she confronted me, told me that I was attractive. We hit it off immediately. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I really like this girl. The disappointment only came when I woke up every morning and remembered she wasn't real. I don't know what tipped me off, but something started to seem really familiar about this girl. Of course, my immediate thought didn't go to Mousy. I mean, imaginary friends were little girls and boys. I decided to finally bring it up to my wife. I thought she would just laugh or maybe make a joke about me cheating in my dreams. But she just stared at the white carpet and nervously began picking at the thread on the couch cushion. That's Mousy. My initial thought, why didn't she seem surprised? I mean, you think your imaginary friend showing up in your partner's dreams would be a big deal. But she just looked sad. Listen, there's a lot about Mousy and me you don't know. And I'm afraid that if I tell you, you're gonna run out the door. I turned to her, took her hands, and promised that I'd listen without judgment. Okay. So, Mousy isn't exactly an imaginary friend. When I was about 5, back when we lived in the old house off the highway, she paused to look at me, making sure I was following. I nodded, letting her know I understood, and it was okay. Go on. I had always been playing out in the yard for a while when my ball rolled out into the busy street. I knew to look both ways before crossing, but I just really wanted to get my ball. So I ran out without thinking twice. Meanwhile, there was a small car barreling towards me, really, really fast. I didn't even notice, but the driver did her best to swerve out of the way, causing her to collide with a tree at an alarming speed. Her voice quivered. I noticed how she wasn't looking at me, or anything for that matter. She just stared out the window, completely lost in her traumatic memory. My mom ran outside and grabbed me in an effort to get me away from the wreckage. She held me in her arms. And as I looked over her shoulders, I locked eyes with the driver. She was alive, but she was choking on her own blood. I screamed and kicked, but my mother wouldn't put me down. She locked me in my room, and that's when she appeared. I recognized her from the crash site immediately. I asked her if she was okay, and she nodded. I told her I was sorry. She nodded again, and she's been with me ever since. She stopped for a moment, snapping back from the memory, and looked up at me. I tried to tell my parents, but they didn't believe me. All the kids at school made fun of me, and I held on to Mousie. She was nice. She always wanted to play with me. She was like family. Until I got into high school, that is. When I started dating, she got extremely jealous. She would beg me to pay attention to her. She'd hurt herself if I ignored her. Then she'd latch onto them, touching them, kissing them. They couldn't feel it. I think they could kind of sense it, though, because they'd always break up with me for other girls that looked a lot more like her. I know this is hard to believe, but she's actually been taunting you for quite a while. Sometimes I've noticed that she'll climb on your shoulders. It made sense. I mean, I've had several doctor's visits for back and shoulder pain, but they really could never find the source. I kind of knew something was up when she lost interest in you altogether. It seemed like she was finally getting to her point. Listen, you have to ignore her. I shook my head. I liked her. I didn't want to ignore her. As stupid as it was, it caused an argument so violent, it felt like it almost shook the house. She continued to call me names like psycho. I just spit them back at her. The argument only ended when the both of us got tired. She retired to the bedroom while I sat up in the cot in my office. At least, I could take solace in the fact that I knew my dreams held someone that understood me. This night was different, though. She was there, but there was nothing else. Like the world around us was frozen. Her lips didn't move, but she still spoke. There's only one way we can be together. Then she handed me a knife. I don't know what to do at this point. I mean, I knew well enough that Mousie wanted me to kill my wife. That was easy. She was still asleep. She didn't even wake up. I just don't know how to be with her. I don't want a girl that looks like Mousie. The real Mousie. Furthermore, I have no idea how I'm going to clean this mess. Any advice?